Hi, this is Graham Standish, and again, I'm back in my COVID clothing. We came in from the inside because it was really cold outside, and both my daughter Erin, who's filming it, and I were starting to shiver. So we decided to come back in for our third installment of how to develop wisdom in your life. And today, I want to talk to you about wisdom from the Bible, but specifically, I want to talk to you about three main figures in the Bible who teach us really important lessons about wisdom. I want to talk to you about Abraham, about Moses, and about Jesus. So let me start with Abraham and talk a little bit about what is it that Abraham did that really teaches us a lot about wisdom. Well, I think the life of Abraham gives a very simple lesson that developing wisdom really requires the willingness to look for answers that not only are those ingredients that we've talked about before, but to really look for answers that come beyond normal human thinking, what I would call the spiritual or God. Think about Abraham. Abraham was a guy who was comfortable living in the city of Haran, and he got called to move into the unknown, which other people might have looked at as being a really stupid decision. For someone living in a city, why would you go out into the wilderness? And yet Abraham's wisdom was he was willing to follow. He was willing to accept what took place, and he was willing to trust. And that went throughout his life. Not only was he willing to go into the wilderness and to find God, but he was willing to accept whatever happened along the way and to trust in God for his future. The few times he didn't trust, things didn't turn out that well. But he found that if he was willing to trust and accept and follow, then in the end, great things happened. Moses is another figure. Moses had a deep wisdom, but I have to tell you, Moses didn't have it from the start. Moses actually developed it when he tried to use his power to bring about some kind of justice, and he ended up killing somebody and ended up going off into the desert for what Paul says was 40 years. And it's in the desert that he not only found humility, but he also found wisdom. Because real wisdom comes from the willingness to go through struggles. It's the willingness which Moses did was to recognize our own shortcomings. We always think of Moses as this great figure who was just always willing to follow God, but his first reaction to God was, well, who am I? I can't even speak right. I can't do this. But in the end, he was willing to follow. And wisdom came to him, even though he had no guarantees. For him, he was willing to go through struggle. And he was willing to recognize his own shortcomings. And he was willing to go forward, even though he had them. And he was willing to trust. Finally, Jesus, we could go on for all afternoon talking about Jesus' wisdom, but there's one aspect about Jesus' story that I think is so crucial. It's his being baptized and then going out into the desert. Instead of being baptized and going out and teaching and healing and preaching and all of that, he went into the desert because Jesus was willing to do the hard thing rather than the easy thing. Because that's also the way of wisdom. We're willing to do what's difficult to find what's right. So from Abraham we learn, be willing to follow, be willing to accept, and be willing to trust and realize that good things come about because of that. With Moses, to be willing to go through struggles, to recognize our own shortcomings and to work through them to still find a better way and to find God's way. And finally, with Jesus, to be willing to do the hard thing and not the easy thing. Again, I always say this, but remember, At Samaritan, whether you are someone seeking counseling or a clergy seeking coaching or spiritual direction, we are here to help you to develop wisdom. And I'll see you next time. Thank you.